that whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. So hello there, beloved Ascension pioneers, all you lovers of life out there, and welcome to this video together with me. I'm in this beautiful, pristine location. I'm actually in the heart of the Alps. I'm in Carnic Alps, which is in Italy, bordering right to Austria. So I had 5 days, 5 mountain peaks overcome, and it's been an amazing experience of truly feeling that pull, that flow of life force, and that internal peace, which is such a dynamic of our new unfolding that begins with walking this path of manifesting through life force. So before I went on this trip, I actually asked Spirit what will be my next topic, because whenever I create something, I'm always already seeding the new, and the answer was, well, of course, creating through life force. And I don't usually use the word manifestation so much because the word has been abused a lot, especially in terms of manifesting through the secret, the law of abundance, the law of attraction, all of that. When Spirit always presents me with the word creating, because creating is the most natural state when we align with the natural law and the forces of creation. So there is no better place than to talk about this than here, especially because after 5 days of being here and simply walking and climbing every day, it's been quite a challenging experience, and yet it's been profoundly peaceful. It's been just me and these empty peaks because there's not a lot of people here now. So I've actually felt what I wanted to talk about in the next video, which is this video. So I have recently, before I actually left on this trip, created the Galactic Human Embodiment and Planetary Light Service, multidimensional in a way, self-mastery course, which is the following course after the Tantrica Life Force Mastery. And before really publishing and making that course public, I actually was guided to go on this trip to truly settle into this, what I have created, to not be so much in this rushing mode, but to trust this guidance and pull of life force. So coming here has been a deep experience of what I've always felt was true. And I've been called to come to these peaks since summer. And I've actually waited for the right moment and the right moment. And this is a part of what we'll talk about today in terms of how do we actually create through life force, because the word manifestation isn't so much correct, because manifestation always implies our own conscious contribution through mental activity. And in a way, this has been our main dominant template as a human species for so long, and we have become quite a mental society. We've become very distracted and distressed in so many ways because we've forgotten how beautiful and natural it is for us to align with the natural law and the divine purpose, which all of us simply live by doing what is right in each moment. So a lot of the times we think, what is the right thing to do? And asking that question is already implying that we have, in a way, this need for permission. And I remember before coming here, I kept asking myself, well, is it now the right time? Is it the right time to come? And I felt this right time. I felt pulled. I felt the call. And yet a part of me was still not trusting fully. This full surrender did not yet occur. And then I remember I published on Instagram that I'm going, and 2 days I couldn't go. I was too tired from everything I was doing. For a month I was creating so much, focusing on this, what I was doing with the Galactic Human Course and other things. And I felt my body just needed to rest and unwind. And of course, I knew that when the pull will come, it will be a natural pull. And this is exactly what I was talking about a few videos ago, I think. And it's what I teach more directly in the course in Galactic Human Embodiment, because this is our natural state. When we exist in high vibrational attunement and consciousness, it's just that everything that has been holding us to a certain framework simply detaches from us, or we detach from it. We enter into this profound space of inner knowing, which is us as a sovereign being. We are the one who are governing this force and activity of our life because we have embodied this purity. So I would say the first step to truly manifesting, or I would say, or Spirit says, creating through life force, is the unburdening from the old template. And there are so many mental beliefs, not only us personally we ascribe to, but there's many also consciousness frameworks. So let's say collective consciousness beliefs that we ascribe to. So something is sold to us or given to us through the mainstream, and we somehow align ourselves with that. So it was just like, this law of attraction through The Secret. Now everyone aligned with that. And now it's become so overpopulated in a way that everyone now is trying to manifest that way. And it still implies a lot of trying, but people still hold a lot of unrecognized beliefs, subconscious patterns that are influencing their reality, that a lot of times they say, but why doesn't this work? Just as well, there's not a lot of unconditionality, and we want to do things because they would serve us in a way. So the first thing is we need to clear ourselves completely. We need to create the space for purity where we could embody this purity of life force. And that's why I recorded and created this Tantrika Life Force Mastery course. And those of you who have already taken the course, which is probably not many of you so far, because people are, slowly adjusting to this new frequency and this new way of existence, but it is coming. So those of you who might follow into that path a bit later, or you feel called, you need more space to integrate, it's probably because you're still working on a lot of unburdening of the past, of this past template. When we say unburdening of the past, that doesn't necessarily imply your past lives or your past in this life. It means of this entire past framework that we as a human collective have been functioning on, has been linear, has been based on separation. And a lot of this duality stays with us. So even though you might align with the law of secret, right? So you're saying, well, I'm going to focus on the positive. I will focus on this. I will feel into things, all that they're teaching you through that. But there's still duality working through you. So in the way, when your soul calls you to greater consciousness, expansion, and embodiment, you will feel the results are no longer there, because the results of something only operate while that state of consciousness is being perceived or lived through you. So when your soul gives you upgrades and you start asking yourself, well, why does this no longer work for me? It's because you've transcended that. And now something new wants to come, a new aspect of you. Well, we would say we're always shedding, but we're not just shedding, because we're not just these beings who constantly put off their old skin, but we're also always creating, or I would say rebirthing, regenerating anew. We're always birthing new aspects of ourselves. So the first step would be complete unburdening, complete, unsubscribing from these collective patterns, from your personal patterns, from your family patterns. And that's the first part, which I talk about as the soul healing path, which is the integration of your true soul, which is beyond all that you were told to, all that you think is good, all that you think it works, and all that you're thinking you need to try for. The second thing would be this genuine purity through which you need to be completely unconditional, because manifesting or creating through life force is a different state of consciousness, which is you as the purity of your spirit. You are no longer in charge. You are not in control in the way you think you're supposed to be, right? As a human born through this identity. But in a way, you become more in charge than ever before. You are so self-empowered that this power now running through you is the power of the multiple selves that can be you all at the same time. Because when I came here to these apps, I've literally felt and I've integrated a new aspect of me that I haven't yet before. And this is why sometimes a part of this clearing process is withdrawing ourselves from what we would say other people, influences coming from the outside. It's like being in a hermit mode for a while. This is healthy, not in a way that you're always like this, because we're meant to be social. We're meant to build friendships and partnerships. But sometimes this is so necessary so that we can feel what is actually us. What is the life force that wants to create a unique way through us, instead of thinking, well, this is how I create, or this is how I generate life or abundance, or whatever you think abundance is for you. So our reality is constantly being challenged because we challenge ourselves. It's not that some external force is challenging us, but the soul that is constantly evolving and expanding, which is only happening through the integration of complete love, without the truth of living through love, there's no application. And you can try, you can do, a lot of people are doing constantly and they're hoping for results. There will be results, but those results will match them at that level. So if you're trying to push for something through ego and through that forced will, you're always going to get that as a boomerang somewhere, because that's how energy works. You are creating within a certain template. Creating through the purity of life force through the majority of humans is so new, but in a way it's not new. It's our original self. It's our core self. It's our main template, beyond all that we have created as different external shells that we exist through. It is so pure. It is so primal, but it's not primitive. It is primal because it's that force where you simply know when to turn left instead of turning right. I have a story to share with you. When I came here, I said, I don't want to anymore, I don't want to have this feeling of I'm pushing for things. When I go here, it has to be effortless, because this is what life force creation is. And I tell you, it was completely effortless. I put on my phone, it directed me perfectly. I didn't have any challenges. I simply came here to the first building. I stopped there. I wanted to ask for rooms, but somehow I didn't fully trust myself yet. So I went to the other house, and there was this older woman there, and I asked her, and she said, well, I have no room, but there they have it, and this is exactly where my car stopped. Naturally, I don't know who stopped, who pulled over at that time. It wasn't me for sure, but it's that pull when you just know, and you're being guided through a force bigger than what you think you know in that moment. And I came there, it was effortless. I got the room, it was all very affordable. Everything was just simply in a natural flow. And I was shown, look, your car stopped there without thinking. You weren't in a thinking mode. You were in the creative flow. So that's how manifesting, or I would say creating through life force, feels like. But it's a desire bigger than just you creating your life. I'm creating a reality for myself. This is how I want to live. This is what my abundance is about. Creating through life force, that third step, that is birthed through that trust, has to be, like I said before, it's that unconditionality. And that unconditionality will be you always in divine service. So I have another story to share with you. When I came here on the second day, I climbed this peak, but I went up on a bit of a challenging path, and it was kind of difficult. It was very steep, and down below, very exposed. This mountain ridge was very exposed, and I didn't want to return on that route. So I met some people up there on the top of the mountain, and there was this woman then returning, and she said, well, would you go with me to help me? And I said, yeah, of course, I'll go with you, because she was alone, and she knew how to speak English. So we went down together, and the entire path, she had some challenges because she wasn't so used to walking on such steep slopes and so on. I helped her a bit, and I was always making sure she's okay and looking after her. She was laughing all the time. And I said, why are you laughing? What's funny? She said, no, it's not funny. She was so surprised that someone could be so attentive, someone would be so considerate, and it opened her heart, and she was just telling me things and opening up, and we had a beautiful communicative flow, which is that third thing I want to talk about, is putting yourself, not putting others in front of you like some people teach, but seeing others as divine equals. So the woman said to me, I love how people who come to the mountains are always so open, and they kind of always help each other, because there was another man there and a woman, and he was actually a climbing teacher, and he was also helping her before we split ways at the bottom. So she said, yeah, people are always opening up, and they're kind of helping each other. And I said, of course, because in the mountains, you can't afford to be an isolated self. It's that group pull, it's that group consciousness. So that third step is that unconditionality, which is the birth of divine equality, when you see everyone everyone has to benefit. So when you create through life force, it has to be a creation that will benefit the whole, not just you. So let's say I have a project and I'm so wanting to push it. I want to push it in the moment. It has to be like this and at that due time, and it has to serve me this way. Instead of opening and trusting that, I don't know, I can't see always from this high perspective, but I trust that Spirit will guide me in a way that will benefit a larger whole. And this is what the majority of people are mentally kind of cognitively contemplating on and kind of starting to accept as reality, but very few people can align with that and live through that alignment of complete surrender when you know that unconditionally serving yourself and others as equals is the opening to this state of all manifests perfectly when you drop this need to achieve, to deliver, to always do something, to provide for, to produce, because it's not unconditional. Producing is not unconditional. It's not really our human beingness that is birthed through that. It's a lot of human doingness, and there's so many people doing, and they're not looking around. Maybe there's other things that are necessary more in this moment. So in that moment, it wasn't important, how fast I go down, what do I do, what do I see. It was more important that I help that being come down. And we came down together just perfectly, in perfect timing. Everything was beautiful. So this knowing that life force will pull you to the right situation, to the right person in the right moment, is not a mental affirmation, and then when it's presented to you, you're kind of like, no thank you, not so much, I want to go that way. Because it's a different thing to contemplate on something, to talk about it, but then to truly embody it. Because I've met a lot of people who are like, la la la, I'm this spiritual, I'm so much this, I'm love and light, everyone's saying this now. Yeah, of course, it's popular. But are we really firmly that nurturing? It's almost like a welfare of abundance, and a well of this overflowing fountain. So I teach in my course how to actually become a planetary light server. You have to know how to always generate a surplus of energy. And if you want to know more about that and how to tune to your multidimensional self, your unconditional self, your galactic human self, all of that is now available in my course. So there isn't a lot more to say here, except for that this is the new state that humans can embody. And a lot of people are thinking, well, that's a place for the gods, or we can be like this as humans. We're just petty little humans, and we have our own faults and mistakes, and we're just gonna still continue to mind our business, and the divine is the divine, and we're humans here. Yes, of course we're meant to have our human experience, but there's still this belief that is, in a way, an intersection. It's almost like a blockage that keeps that highest divinity state of grace, of complete state of grace embodiment, and us as humans. It's kind of like a divide. It's because a lot of humans still have that belief it's not possible to embody this highest state of grace. It's not possible to become so beautiful. So when people meet someone like that, the woman was laughing because she didn't know how else to react or respond to my energy. But then later she just embraced it. I said, well, embrace help. It's okay to trust, to receive, because people in this new modern, kind of way of being in this society, they're so used to always producing, sometimes giving, but it's not that unconditional giving. It's not like you give, because you have no expectation. You just love it because you live through love. People say, well, then you owe me this or you owe me that. And sometimes it won't happen in the most perfect way. I've had experiences when I've had this vow with someone, and I said, let's do this or let's exchange this, and it came only from my end, but it didn't return to me from that end. And I could be all bitter and saying, well, people are like this and like that, and they're not living in love, they're just talking about it. But I simply said, it's okay. It's where they are. You can't force them. You can't force someone to, I respect sacred vows, but maybe for some people, because in a way it's become hard for them to receive fully, they might receive from you, but they still feel a little bit of weird. Why would you give them? You must be something, must be an agenda or something. So they cannot themselves also then unconditionally give, because they have like this belief that's behind, that's not allowing them to receive fully. So there's a difference between receiving. We can all receive something that comes, right? But receiving it fully means with full awareness, with full heart openness, with heart-centeredness. And that's where this true conscious contemplative self is birthed in a reality, in this embodied form. So this topic, of course, could go on and on and on, because for me, there's always so much to share when it comes to the beauty of life force and the creation of our truest self. And it's the most wondrous thing, because when you become the embodiment of the vessel of the pure spirit, this life force, it just flows. So these 5 days I've had here, simply there was no interruptions, there were no challenges, everything was flowing. And it's because there was no other people, there was no external influences, so I get to experience the true fullest me. And I'm always like this, I'm always in bliss. And of course we're here as planetary light servers or volunteer souls, whatever you may call yourself. It sometimes will be challenging because there will be other people and there will be external conditions and there will be circumstances. But this inner state, when you fully align with this peace, and recently Spirit said to me, you've achieved now this state of peace, but hold your guns. Don't shoot them, don't blow them, because a lot of times we're not used to this state. We think it's something wrong. How can we be in this state all the time? So we must shoot our guns, which means we explode. That means you might get upset about something, or a pattern reemerges because you still haven't fully accepted this beauty that you can exist in this state of grace, that you can embody life force fully and perfectly, that it's your natural state, that it's your birthright as a divine human being. It's not just a human being or divine being, it's a divine human being. I always keep stressing that. With all of you, I keep talking in this way. So, it's really important that we know how to hold this state. So when we have it, sometimes we have it for a few moments, then we drop it, right? But how can we have it on a permanent basis? Again, it's a question of this integration that it depends on, for different people, it might vary how long in a way of linear time we need to feel fully comfortable in this new space. Because for some people, it's so uncomfortable to be a transparent vessel. They always need to be full. But if you're always full with something you're continuously needing to stress over and produce, and you can't feel the beauty of this vacuum, this empty space, which is actually the only thing that will provide you with an experience of fullness that will follow that, because you've emptied your vessel, now it can be full. And when you are empty, you will notice, because you will become not attached to circumstances or people or situations. So you'll have a greater view, a vista that's more expanded or enlarged, and you will have a greater clarity, and you will feel more this pull, where you're pulled to next. You will know how to unwind from which is not that highest alignment, and you will know which pulse of life to follow. So if you want to learn more about the first step, which is life force mastery, go take my Tantrika Life Force Mastery course, because I truly recommend it. It's 6.5 hours long and it's super extensive, but it's truly important for this next state. And then what follows is the new course, which is the Galactic Human Embodiment and Planetary Light Service, which teaches us how to become a force of not just, okay, I've learned how to flow through life force, it's now become the essence of me, but how can I serve through that? How can I serve through this newly embodied state of being? And that's the next step, because this planet needs this. It requires a certain quotient, a light quotient of these beings who are taking the first route as forerunners in this journey to really start serving through the full devotion and attention to this life force. So these beliefs we can ascribe to, like just recently someone asked me, well, they said, I believe, because it's commonly stated now that the darkness holds oppression over those who are meant to reunite, such as what people call twin flames, twin souls. They can't come together because the darkness holds them apart. And again, this is another illusion we tell ourselves, because we perceive darkness as bigger than ourselves. So I want to say that these are the kind of beliefs that can only exist because there's still non-integrated shadow within ourselves. So it's basically our own shadow that's preventing us to fully reunite, because that full reunion is a state of your consciousness. And when you have no more blind spots, nothing can manipulate you, because remember, the dark can only manipulate through the shadow that was non-embraced, it was non-integrated, it was non-acknowledged. Nothing can be manipulated in fullness of awareness. So that's the state we want to work on, we want to work towards. And a lot of people are holding on to that and their illusions, and it feels comfortable. So it feels comfortable to kind of point fingers and say, it's the darkness, it's their fault, or it's that person's fault, and they're not awakened enough to be my partner, although I believe they're my match. These kind of lies, like a little white lies we tell ourselves, because we are not fully integrated in our fullness of consciousness. Because in the fullness of consciousness, we will see beyond these blind spots, and we will exist through the beauty of life force. We will know naturally what is, what isn't, because certain things don't flow, sometimes because something's wrong with you, or you haven't manifested properly, or the oppression of the outside circumstances is against you. Nothing is against you. When you embody the purity of life force, all is with you. Nothing, again, it can be against you. Because in a way, this requires a full polarity integration, which is the absolution into nothingness through which everything is born. So that's kind of like one of my favorite proverbs, which is that I am nothing and I'm everything at the same time. And in between this truth, the reality lies, and love moves. So let yourself be moved by the truth, by the core of divine love. I hope you will take, or at least consider taking, my courses, because there's so much work invested in them, and they're truly awesome. They provide a lot of this groundwork for what is necessary at this next stage. So I hope you have some beauty through the beautiful vistas also behind me, and that you can enjoy some of this magical landscape as well. And I want to also mention that I found a few very beautiful crystalline stones here in these Karnic Alps. So if you go to my page and find the crystal shop section, there will be added these little beautiful crystalline stones, because they're also, they have this beautiful rose marble here that is so beautiful. It's like golden white rose, and it's amazing. And I've picked a few of these, so these will also be a part of the collection, and they will also be added there. So it depends on when you're watching the video, but definitely they will be a part of the shipping if you decide to take the high mountain or the alpine crystalline stone. So thank you so much for staying tuned, and go to see the section down below for all the links that are included if you're finding trouble to browse through my page. And I'll talk to you again very soon with so much love, wisdom, and power. As always, may the beauty of divine life force flow through you with ease and effortless grace. And so be it.